Welcome to It's UATL, your unscripted weekly dose of Black culture straight from the heart of Atlanta. I'm Nedra Roan.
I'm Naja Parker.
I'm Deasia Page.
And I'm Brooke Howard.
Hey, y'all.
Hello.
Hey. All in unison.
Okay, so we're getting close to the end of 2025, and there's a big change coming to the AJC because by the end of the year, we will no longer be printing the newspaper. So that shift had us really thinking about media literacy and how it's going to evolve in an increasingly digital age. So Nedra, tell us who our guest is today.
All right, well, today's guest is Kelsey Russell, also known as the print princess of TikTok. Kelsey is all about spreading media literacy awareness and getting people back to the basics of reading the physical print paper whenever possible. Thanks for being here, Kelsey.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chit chat.
Tell us a little bit about how you got into media literacy.
Sure. So I've always had a love of education and learning and making it accessible for everyone. And I found myself dealing with a lot of anxiety. I think just there's a lot going on in the world. I was also getting my master's at Columbia, and I had a policy concentration. I was studying sociology and education with a policy concentration. And in the classroom, I just felt like I couldn't contribute as much as my other classmates. It felt like they were coming to class and knowing everything that was going on in the news, and I didn't. So to find a way to deal with that anxiety, I had a therapist suggest tap into what made little Kelsey happy. And I thought about reading the physical newspaper. I thought about reading the Guinness Book of World Records, collecting random fun facts, and also this need of wanting to improve what I was learning in the classroom. And that led me to reading the physical newspaper. I didn't even realize it was media literacy until I continued to do it and help people realize that I was helping build the skills of media literacy. So it was kind of a selfish decision to improve my own mental health, to improve my own knowledge, and then the doors just open.
How long ago was this, and how old are you now?
I'm 25 now, and this started I asked for the physical subscription right before my 23rd birthday. So the TikTok started when I turned 23. So it's been about 2 years now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How would you define media literacy?
I define it as the diet of media that you're intaking. So just like if you think about the diet of what you eat, right? You want balance. Like you want a good amount of fruits, veggies, protein, but you also want your piece of cake, you want your soda, whatever it is once in a while. So I see media literacy as not only the information you're intaking it, but where are you getting the media that you're intaking? How is it processing through your body? How is it making you feel? What is it introducing you to? So my basic definition is the diet that you're intaking, but it's also the skills of description, analyzing, interpretation, and being able to read something and then have a conversation about it. And ask questions about it.
I love how you describe that, especially the diet portion of that.
Don't eat too much junk food.
I'm like, not too much cake, not too much candy, balanced diet. That makes a lot of sense how you broke that down.
Balanced diet. And then I feel like, too, the only way you're going to get a balanced diet is by eating. I don't know, for some people, it might be the environment they're eating. It might be the plate that they're eating on, who they're eating with. So that's why I say I think media literacy is so much more than just, are you getting hard, good facts? It's like, where is your body when you're actually consuming the media you're consuming? It's all about the how, where, when, why you're consuming it.
One of the things that you mentioned in, I think it was your interview with Columbia Journalism Review, and you said that you consider yourself a storyteller, not a reporter. And I really appreciated you saying that, for one.
Because the people be confused.
But explain that confusion and why people feel that way and why you felt it was important to distinguish that for you.
I think it's because the more that I started consuming media and understanding how good journalism is made, it is so dead wrong to call yourself a journalist or reporter when you do not have the proper training to do so. And also, not all journalists are great storytellers.
So true.
We don't need everybody to be great.
Nedra is like, did I say that out loud?
But you know what? We don't sometimes need a story to be told. Sometimes we need to know what, when, who, why, where it happened, the basic facts. So I say that to my audience because I don't want people coming to my page thinking that they're going to know what the news is. I'm going to tell you the story about how I came across the news, why I chose this, how it made me feel, what it made me think about. And I think storytelling is a skill that doesn't just belong to journalists. It can belong to so many people. Some of your best friends who are the best gossipers are the best storytellers.
family members.
Right? So I tell people I'm a storyteller, not a journalist, because that is not what my training is. And also, I like to see my work as also a bridge to good journalists and is an ode to them, because so many people will go and take journalist stories on platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and retell them.
I also appreciate that approach because it seems really engaging. You're having a conversation with the people who are watching your content, so they talking back to you.
Exactly. And you know what? I get to do that because that's another thing when it comes to journalism.
Yeah, you don't always get to do unless someone's ranting at you.
Which happens.
I get to bypass a little bit. I get to tell my audience that I am biased. I get to tell them my beliefs up front. I get to be a little bit more unethical. And so I think it's important to do that because that's also a part of media literacy, is who wrote the stuff you're consuming. And so much of my audience is like, well, why didn't the journalists share this perspective? Why were they writing like this? It's not a journalist's job to tell us how they feel politically at all times. In some ways, in some moments it is, in some moments it's not. But I think it's important so my audience knows there are kind of privileges that I get because I'm not a journalist that I get to talk about on my TikTok. So that's another reason I like to let them know what they're getting and what they're not getting.
Right.
Yeah. And going off of that, I know the relationship between content creators and journalists can be a bit divisive these days. But in your opinion, like, what is something that you think journalists can learn from content creators and something that content creators can learn from journalists?
Yeah.
Also, sorry not to cut you off, but have you gotten like critiques from journalists about your content too, or?
Yeah. Okay. So the critiques, I do get journalists, like if I say something factually wrong, they come in the comments and they're the ones that are like, well, one, that's not how you pronounce somebody's name. You got this date wrong. I'm like, you're right. You you tell me you are the professional. So most of the critiques come from that. And I'll answer first because I think content creators actually have more to learn from journalists. And I would say the first thing is the time that it takes to make a good piece of journalism and a good piece of news. Like when you were seeing, a 4-page spread in a magazine, or when you were seeing a story, on the AJC's website, it takes so much time, and not just that writer's time. We're talking standards, we're talking editors. It's so much work that I think it's important for content creators to understand. Our work, I don't care what people say, it is not as heavy as a journalist work. And content creators can be mad at me for saying that. I don't really care. I don't think it's as hard. So I would say that the time it takes to put out a piece of journalism, to put out a piece of content is only a fraction of that time. But I would say that what to learn from content creators is that there are content creators that really care about their audience and what they're putting out. And those are the content creators that journalistic institutions should be seeking to work with, not the ones that simply have a bunch of followers. I think that...
Preaching.
You just wait.
Yes.
You just hit a nerve there, Kelsey.
I think that's like the cool thing that can be learned is that the content creators, honestly, that have like the 10K, 15K, 20K, their careers, I think, are more similar to journalists, of like building a community and a following that trust you. And I also think we can also learn too, especially if you're in freelance journalism, like how much sometimes payment can look alike for all of us. And with content creators, sometimes you have to say yes to maybe a deal that you don't really want to say yes to, or write about, let's say, a list about the top 10 cats because you just need to get that rent paid.
Yeah.
So I think we could learn that we have a lot more similarities than differences.
What is the craziest feedback or exchange that you've had with someone?
Ooh, the craziest. I get kind of lucky because a lot of my feedback is positive. I do get a lot of notes about, it's funny, she's trying to help people read print media when most people can't read. I'm like, yeah, that's the point.
Right.
Like, I'm trying to make it look fun.
Yeah.
To encourage people to read. So I think the craziest thing I get met with is negativity for just trying to do something
good,
positive,
yeah.
And I'm like...
To make reading fundamental again.
Right,
Wow.
to make it fun and fundamental. I get a lot of contradictory comments, like, why is this girl trying to help people read, but she's on TikTok? I'm like, exactly, that's the point.
Yeah.
Is that when people are stuck in their scroll...
When
It went over their heads. You know? But I always say you have to be in a very interesting place in life to be laying horizontally and type something negative.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
You really got to be in a place I have no interest being in.
I think I might take that and repeat that to myself several times.
Yeah, like just think, because like when I'm laying horizontally, the last thing I'm trying to do is type negative stuff on my phone. I'm actually trying to be off my phone.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that's the craziest thing is how people just automatically like, that's not going to work, or why are you doing that? When the answer is because if it impacts one person, that's enough for me.
How do you think media literacy is evolving? And are these changes for the good or for the bad?
Well, I mean, like, I was recently at University of Georgia, and they have a news literacy certificate program where you learn about, you know, media savviness, your diet, what you're intaking, how to sort through good information, bad information, how to bring that into whatever sector of career you're in. And they talked about how they can't even title it media literacy. They have to title it news literacy. Because when you start to talk about media literacy, it suddenly becomes political. So when you ask where the direction of it is going, I think the idea of media itself has become so politicized that we are going in a direction where people fear that instilling media literacy skills will make super political and radical people, versus the fact that I think media literacy should be in a direction of when we're talking about, I mean, media literacy can be taught to a preschooler or a first schooler about when you're looking at a book, what colors are you seeing? How is it making you feel when you talk about that with your classmates? So I think it's going into an area where there are groups of people that feel like if we teach people media skills, we are indoctrinating them. But I also think the current status of it is interestingly, I feel like I'm seeing a trend amongst a lot of younger people of this desire to unplug and actually wondering how the technology they're using to consume media is impacting their overall experience in the world and in society. So I think there's a group of people that are afraid of it, but there's also this group of people that are trying to figure out how can I just have a better relationship with the media and how does technology impact that relationship.
Today, it's a constant notification. It's an email. It's a newsletter. It's a website. It's an app. It's everything.
And how do you know what's important?
Yeah.
I've noticed this with news. Like, if I don't know about a certain political conflict, people take that personally and offensively now, because everybody assumes we have the same 24/7 news cycle. When it's very personalized and through algorithms, I would prefer to just watch it at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
How do those algorithms that you mentioned, how does that impact our consumption of news? Because I'm not sure that people really understand how that works when you're consuming on social media or other platforms.
This is like a part I didn't even think about until I started reading print. And I kind of like to talk about how I fell out of love with consuming information on social media around the pandemic. And I think I just got tired of scrolling. I got tired of seeing news. I stopped following a lot of news and informative accounts. I realized the lack of agency that I had over what I was consuming on my digital scroll. Because when I physically open a paper, I'm looking for first of all, I'm looking for something. I'm either looking for a headline that interests me. Maybe I'm looking for the author's name. Maybe I come across a picture of somewhere I've traveled, or versus on social media, you know, I tell my phone I love pink and I love butterflies. It's going to show me so much pink and butterflies. If I show my phone, you know, I don't really like to interact with the color purple, for example. When it finally does show me something that is purple, it's going to try to get more of an emotional and negative reaction out of me. So I think people don't understand how much algorithms are built on our emotional reactions versus a sense of natural curiosity that would allow you to just explore the news based on what you feel is important to you, or maybe you didn't know what was important. So I always have said that I feel like print gave me back a sense of agency in my news consumption versus an algorithm telling me what I should care about because I already told it that I want to care about that.
Right.
Even with TikTok, I feel like that you don't even have to be on TikTok to know what's gonna be on there, because I feel like they're overhearing our conversation right now.
For sure.
I feel like your page
Yeah.
will pop up on my timeline at some point today.
Yeah.
So
It will. It's very creepy.
I'm like, are you in the room?
Right.
Or-
Come out.
They are. They're in the room. They are in the room.
In every room.
You got me wondering, like, what would be your ideal way for print to kind of reinvent itself?
So I think that print is ever relevant now. I just think that AM, PM newspaper, the idea that everybody is going to get their news from a print, that is dead. that's over with. But I think especially in this world where we do have influencers, I do wonder, I think a world of print could look a lot more curated, like our feeds. Like, we know that certain people love sports. We know certain people love culture and fashion. What does it look like to make smaller versions of newspapers and deliver those to people who have expressed interest in those exact areas? I also think that a better world of print really looks like where print is being distributed. The number one question I get from my audience is, where can I find a newspaper and where can I find a magazine? I live in New York City, so I'm a bit spoiled because we still have newsstands.
Yeah.
We still have magazine stores. I travel a lot too. So there's always a newspaper, always a magazine in the airport. So pretty much for my audience who doesn't live in New York, the only place I can really tell them to find a newspaper is a train station or a public library. And a lot of people don't have library cards. A lot of people don't even know all the things you can do in a public library. And I think it's about breaking moments where people might oftentimes be on their phones and not interacting and using print as that source to change behavior. So that's what I think is more curated and also more intentional about where print is distributed.
Yeah.
You may have heard that the AJC is wrapping up its print run.
I heard.
And so I'm wondering, you had mentioned also previously that you think local news is really important to relating to the audience. And so I just wonder what, given that we are, for the most part, a local newspaper and we're losing this print edition, what do you foresee?
I think a lot of people are going to feel left out, maybe feel like something has been taken away from them. And my concern with that is a lot of times when local communities feel like their stories are no longer being shared, that turns into anger and frustration. It kind of makes me scared about like certain historical moments that will only exist digitally. Even to this day, my parents have so many newspapers of their friends being on the front page or inside. So I think about how it changes our relationship locally with Atlanta history, right? Like, it's one less opportunity for people to touch history, to see history, to hold on to history, which I think, like, I'm not a historian, I'm not an anthropologist, but I'm sure they could speak highly on like how we interact with artifacts impacts our experiences with cities and with cultures. So that's what I would say to that.
As someone who's from Atlanta, do you have any personal like memories with the AJC's paper?
Yes. What? The lifestyle and art section of the AJC is when I realized so every morning I remember I would eat breakfast at the counter and my dad, like, they would just leave the lifestyle section for me in the comic section. That was like my thing. I would eat breakfast, read it. And I pretty much did that up until the time I could drive to school. I think just that little kid of wanting to do something while I'm eating too, and the AJC was what I did and read. And I think it probably, my therapist saying, go back to little Kelsey, I definitely thought of her, and it reminded me that print is an option to do that. So yeah, the AJC, I have many, many memories.
Well, I know you're based in New York City now, but we asked all of our guests this during our episodes, and it's, how are you so ATL?
Oh, that's so fun. I'm happy y'all didn't prep me for that one. I mean, how am I so ATL? There is just this pride that even if you leave this city that you have, that I don't care. Like, this is the best city in the world and nobody can tell me anything differently. So I do feel like I'm so ATL because I walk around with a chip on my shoulder in any city that I'm in. And I'm like, oh, you think New York is better? Okay, like, it's better in some ways, but it's not Atlanta. And then also so ATL because any space I go in, it's still mind-boggling to me that Black culture is not prioritized. Like, if Black culture, if Black American and primarily Black Southern American culture is not prioritized or cared about in these spaces, I'm going to make sure it is in some way.
Well, thank you so much, Kelsey, for joining us. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Yes, thank you all for having me. You
Thanks
guys are such a vibe.
You too.
Okay, y'all, it's time to take a break, but we'll be right back.
So, to say goodbye to the AJC's print newspaper, we wanted to talk about our own print stories as readers and as reporters. So, Nedra, you're our veteran reporter here. So, Let's start with you. Like, what is your personal experience with print?
When I was in journalism school, was thinking about what I wanted to do. Did I want to be in newspapers, magazines, but it was always print. And that was at a time, early 2000s when we were starting to transition into online. And they did have an online program at my school, but I very much wanted to be in print. So I knew that much I knew.
Why did you feel so sure about print?
I grew up in Chicago, as we also know. My parents they subscribed to 4 or 5 different newspapers. So I grew up in a very print household. I think I opted to choose newspapers because I felt like there was, at the very least, the opportunity every day to write about anything that I wanted to write about. I knew if I went to magazines, I could be, more restricted in what I could write about. Just as a reader, like I said, for my whole childhood, there was always the newspaper there. I used to like to rub the newsprint and get it on my fingers.
A little smudge.
Yes. And then I don't know if y'all remember this, but there was that toy, and it was like, was it Silly Putty? Y'all remember that?
The super sticky Silly Putty.
It was sticky.
That used to come in like
in an egg.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you took it and you pressed it onto newsprint, it would lift the picture. So I used to do that with the comics.
What was your favorite section of the?
It started off when I first was reading was the comics. There was this one called Love Is. It was just this one little thing. And it would say, love is, ice cream on a hot day or something cute like that. And then I graduated from the comics to, I started reading lifestyle first because I was like, that's where the fun stories are. And then as I got older, I started reading more opinion and news or whatever was happening. So
Look at you. Well read from a young age.
Trying. Yeah. What about you?
I grew up in a print household as well. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and our local newspaper was the Commercial Appeal, which unfortunately doesn't print anymore, but my dad was an avid reader, so we have newspapers everywhere. We were the type of household that would also frame certain newspaper
important
sections.
ones. Oh, what were some of the ones?
Let me tell you what my childhood bedroom is looking like. When you enter, you see the big size bed. It's like a queen size bed. That was my teenage bed that I elevated to. And then on the left side of the bed is the front page of the Commercial Appeal when Obama first got elected. And it was gifted by my church.
Here we go.
Episode.
Here we go.
All roads go back to church.
It was gifted by my church. So that was a little keepsake. But yeah, we loved reading the newspaper. Now, I didn't personally read the newspaper a lot. I was more of a magazine girl. So we subscribed to Jet, Ebony, Essence. My mom loved, I want to say, Better Homes.
Better Homes and Gardens.
Yeah, Better Homes and Gardens. She loved that. So I would thumb through those pages. And then when I got a little older, I started reading Teen Vogue and I got really into that. So that's how I started. I especially liked Jet because it felt like a bite-sized magazine, something that I could consume as a little one, because the bigger magazines, I felt like I couldn't get through it all in enough time, but I always got through nearly every page of Jet magazine. There was a love section too in Jet where people would make announcements about, getting married, and that was nice. I love the entertainment section. That was my favorite. I love reading about the movie stars, the singers, anybody that was on my television. I felt like I was a little closer to them just by reading the magazine. So that's kind of how it started for me. My very first full-time job in journalism happened to be at Jet magazine. So it was a full circle moment for me. I started out as an intern, and I remember some of my assignments were the Jet Beauty of the Week.
Yes.
And the obituaries.
That's a heavy contrast, though, to do Jet Beauty of the Week and then also the obituaries.
It was, right?
Like,
But I remember we tried to do something more innovative with the Jet Beauty of the Week by having the readers submit options, and they will vote on who would be the Jet Beauty of the Week for a particular edition. And Black China won.
Oh, wow.
Because the influencer space was booming too. And,
the IG baddie of it.
Exactly.
All, that was a moment.
Wow.
And we were trying to be in that moment with the Jet Beauty of the Week. But I think we only did that one time. So everybody was trying to ride the wave of digital.
Right.
That's sad.
Yeah. Brooke, what do you remember about print?
Ooh, I had a print household also. I started in the comics also. So I grew up in Cincinnati, and my stepdad actually started me reading the paper. I got into the comics. I loved Baby Blues. I'm not sure if y'all know of that one. That was the young parents who were raising their newborn baby. But I used to read all the comics like Garfield, Peanuts. But we always had magazines in the house too, like Essence. And then when I was in like my teen years, I was reading YM when that was still a thing. I
17. Was that still
17.
around?
Yeah, no, 17.
17.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was more into YM because like I loved Backstreet Boys. And then I loved black hair magazines.
Oh, yeah.
So we constantly had black hair magazines that I still have in the house.
Wow.
Collecting somewhere. And then also, sorry, I read Highlights magazines as a kid.
Oh, yeah,
Collected
Highlights.
those for years.
Oh, my God.
I do remember that.
I remember highlights.
You just unlocked a
remember
memory.
that.
Wait, what is it?
Oh, the highlights. Like I hadn't thought about
Like
that in
Goofus
years.
and all the little like.
But I remember that.
You also unlocked a memory for me about Ebony Jr.
There was an
Hello.
Ebony Jr.
Yeah,
Ebony Jr.
That is where I learned everything I knew at the time, other than what my parents taught me about Black history. I can remember, editions of that magazine even now.
Wow.
I can tell you the story
The
entirely.
impact.
It was unbelievable. Like my favorite one was the Harlem Renaissance. And there were these two characters named Sonny and Honey. They were brother and sister. And they went up in the attic and they were dancing. And Sonny hit his head and it transported them back to the 1920s.
Oh, that's
and
cute.
you learned all about the Harlem
That's
Renaissance.
pretty cool.
It was amazing. And so I went and searched because I was like, I wish that my child had this type of thing. And they're online.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
I'm glad it still
They
exists somewhere.
digitized them.
Yeah.
That's really cool. What about you, Deasia?
I'm kind of like a YN, so I don't have many personal stories like growing up, like reading newspapers at all, or even collecting them. I don't think. But magazines was a huge part of my childhood. I mean, you all mentioned Ebony and Essence and Jet magazine was in my household too, and then I also liked J14.
Girl.
Oh, gosh.
It was this
Back.
teen magazine with all like the Disney Channel stars of it all. Like I was really into like Jonas Brothers and Hannah Montana and
So you gonna watch that Jonas Brothers Christmas movie?
I
this year?
saw that. Yeah. So now I don't like them. I don't like them too much, but
Not anymore.
I will probably add that to my
Yeah.
rotation this holiday season.
So the equivalent of J14 for my generation was Teen Beat and Tiger Beat. Yeah.
And I also liked all the gossip.
Yeah.
Like,
My mom liked
I
those.
guess I was messy from a young age.
No, you were
but-
curious.
Wait, the gossip where? In the magazine?
Yeah,
or,
because they'll tell you like who's going out,
Right,
who broke
who's
up
dating
with
who.
You were just
So,
finding your
like,
career choice. That's all that was.
Yeah, and so I was really into like the entertainment magazines of
Yeah.
it all.
I think that's part of what I'll miss. Feeling the pages on my fingers.
Smelling it.
Yeah.
Smelling it, the ink,
Yes.
all of that is such a sensory experience that the phone or the iPad doesn't offer.
I'll really miss our Sunday Living in Arts section of our newspaper, which is like the premier like entertainment like focal of the AJC's newspaper. When I would do like bigger celebrity profiles, it was just so interesting how getting a copy of those articles still meant so much to these celebrities. But I think the possibility of being on the cover of, your hometown paper was definitely meant a lot to these big name celebrities like Usher or like Janelle Monáe or whoever,
All
else.
folks you profiled.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, they would even ask for like multiple copies and I would like try to be like, okay. So people, really valued seeing them in print.
Yeah,
So,
I can agree with that. I can think of a story I wrote when I was at Ebony about Lil Mama. What you know about
Lil Mama,
Oh,
yeah.
But the story was an as told to piece about her mother who had died from breast cancer. And we were doing a series of stories about celebrities who had some kind of experience with it. And she really appreciated being in print and somebody just telling her story from a different angle. So you're right. I think I don't know, it's special to them too, just to be featured in something physical.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the other thing I'll miss is, and I'm sure you all can relate to this, the moment when you see your name on A1 of the newspaper. And, yes, we have a homepage, but it's different. Things change very fast. And, what's really the central point of the homepage? I don't know. It's just a very different thing, So I will for sure miss waking up in the morning and being like, oh, that's my story.
And sometimes when I do run across our paper in the world, I'm like, oh, look at Nedra, or look at Ernie, look at Deasia, look at Brooke. It's just like, oh, I know that person who has this byline. And my dad would brag on me, bless his heart. I would go to like Walgreens to pick up his prescription, and he would be like, oh, you're picking up a prescription for Jack Parker. Are you his daughter? And I'm like, yeah, I'm his daughter. Are you the one that writes for the Jet magazine? I'm like, yes, I am.
Yes.
So it is something, I don't know, that's exciting about seeing your name in print.
Or even watching people read, either the newspaper or story that you wrote. Like, you can't do that anymore unless you're standing over someone's shoulder and they're on their device.
Right, right.
How do you have that moment where, they don't know who you are and you're sitting there? And that happened to me in the waiting room of the car dealership. And someone was sitting there reading my story. And I was like, oh. And they had no idea because, it was before my face was all over the place. But they had no idea who it was. And and just seeing that moment and knowing how important the work we do is, how it really is widely read, how people really rely on what we do. And I feel like I will very much miss that because that was a large part of why I wanted to be a journalist. Yeah. Do you all have a most memorable story in your journalism career?
Our newsroom did a sort of a digital piece on this recently. And so my answer was the Usher story as our like in the print reflections. So yeah, that was like I said earlier, it was the cover for Sunny Living and Arts in the AJC newspaper last year or like early last year. And that was really at a time in his career when he was like having this sort of renaissance. Like he had just finished the residency in Las Vegas. That was super popular, kind of like redefined what a residency can look like for a veteran act. And then he just wrapped up the Super Bowl performance around the same time. So I was proud of that because it took a year to even like get that on the books. But also I just enjoyed the space I had to just, cover him. And we also did like a video component to it too. And then also in the paper, which I do have hung up on my wall, the words, the words of the story on the front of the article are shaped like a U, like in honor of
cool.
Usher. Mm-hmm. So and that's something you're not gonna really get, online. So I was just very proud of that because I worked very hard to even get that, and then like just documenting someone that big at such an important part of their career was very important. And he, gave a lot of time to us. So
because you gave a lot of time to that story.
Yeah.
I would say the most memorable was fairly recently. I had my first A1 story with Ernie Suggs. Yay! And I don't know, that was just kind of like, as a kid who always read the paper, who always read magazines, who was always reading books, there was nothing like seeing my name on the front page and realizing like no matter what people read in that newspaper today, they're going to see my name. Yeah. And of course, yes, I had to grab several copies to bring them, of course.
Nedra, what comes to mind for you?
Well, one more recent is the museum tour that I got to do with my daughter. That was very special to me because I do feel like, I'm a single parent. I always have been. And in the course of my journalism career, I've had to make a lot of choices about what I do. Yeah. And that was one of the first times that I felt like my career brought me closer to my child as opposed to taking me away from her.
I love that.
And I'm getting tears.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
That holds a very special place in my heart.
Rest in peace to print, I guess. Yeah. Why not? I guess it's actually going to happen. Print will officially end this year, so...
Well, we'll get the last paper. So I feel like that'll be a moment for all of us to just...
Another piece of paper to save.
Yeah, I'm saving that one for sure. That one might have to get framed because I feel like I have time to plan for it. Right. I don't know where I'm going to put it yet, but that'll be one to save.
Thanks so much for listening to It's UATL.
UATL is a source for Black culture and community in Atlanta. It's powered by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and our supporters. If you're enjoying this podcast, join us as a UATL paid supporter at UATL.com.
And if you like the episode, please follow us and leave us a rating and a review. It really helps. See you next week.